Hey guys, welcome back to another show and tell, which is where I get to talk about and share some of the things I've learned on my journey into robotics. And today's video, we're going to talk about Python packages in ROS2. So let's jump over to the IDE and we'll get straight into it. So this is my ROS2 workspace. I have a package called sensors and I've got some nodes in here. And one of those nodes is called ears. That's going to be doing some audio transcribing for my robot so I can speak to it and it can listen. So I called it ears. That kind of made sense. Anyway, there's a bunch of imports in this. Now, there's some standard imports from Python. ROS2 is perfectly capable of finding those for you, so you won't have any trouble with that. But as you start to make your nodes a little bit more complex and you need to pull in different libraries, this is where we have to look at how we manage those dependencies. So there's a number of ways that you can manage dependencies in a ROS2 project. You can, if you want to, create a Python virtual environment or just install them globally with Python. But the recommended way is to use the rosdep tool. And rosdep comes as part of the rosdistro anyway, so it's always available for you to use. So that's what we're going to have a look at today. So how would you tell ROS that we need one of these dependencies? So in the node, there's this package XML file, and you can specify these exec depends. And that's very similar to like a pom.xml if you're a Java developer, or a package.json if you're a Node developer. You just specify the dependencies that you want, and then you delegate the responsibility of finding those dependencies and pulling them in to the build system. So you don't have to go and download zips like we used to in the old days and put them in a lib directory. Anyway, yeah, so that's how you specify the libraries. So where does it know how to get them from? So if we jump over to the browser, in the rosdistro GitHub, there's a directory called rosdep, and in there's a Python file for all the Python libraries. So if we have a look in here, and if we search for Python 3, this file is huge by the way, so it might be a bit tricky to search. So if we look for numpy, there we go. So this corresponds to the exec depend key, and then it would know, okay, we're on Ubuntu. So the way it gets that is to use Ubuntu's package manager, so sudo apt-get install python 3-numpy. So that's how it would find it. If you were running on a different system, so I don't know, Fedora, it would do the same thing, whatever Fedora is. Is it yum install maybe? I don't know, I don't use Fedora. Anyway, so that's how it will go and fetch some of those dependencies. Now, there may be some dependencies that aren't in the big YAML file on rosdep, and that's where we have to do a little bit of work ourselves. So, for example, the OpenAI stuff, that won't be in there, and the Porcupine stuff won't be in there either. So what we have to do, it's very easy to solve actually, very easy. So back in our browser, we have to take a fork of the rosdistro. Very easy to do, just click the fork button up here, and then that will give you a fork in your own account, which you can start making changes to. So under rosdep, Python, and I'm just going to search for the porcupine. This is a huge file, so yeah, there we go. So this here corresponds to the key, again, in my exec depend, and this block I've added in myself because it wasn't there. So for Ubuntu, I am going to install it from pip, and the package is called pv porcupine. So that's how we tell it where that file is. Now, at the moment, ROS2 won't know about that as I forked this. So what we have to do is, there is a file that comes as part of your ROS installation. It goes under etc rosdep sources. So this one comes by default. And if we just have a look at what's in there, I've got a sudo that. Sudo rosdep sources 20. So you can see there's a bunch of URLs here. So this is how ROS knows where to look for those registries. So you can see it's going to ROS, rosdistro, rosdep, and then we've got that Python one here, which is what we just looked at. But in our case, we want to point to the fork. So the way we do that is we basically clone this default, exactly the same, just copy it, but give it a lower number. And because it's a lower number, ROS will look there first before it goes to the other one. And then if we cat out, so we can see exactly the same. The only thing is I've just changed the URLs, so it points to my fork of that. I've got a branch here as well, by the way, branch name. So that's cool. So now we have configured those extra repositories. So we have to tell ROS about those. And the way you do that is by running rosdep update. So what that does is rosdep will go and look at those two registry files, and then it rebuilds its cache so it knows where to go for when it's looking for dependencies. Cool. Okay, so now we're ready to go and ROS install. So I've got it in my make file just because it's easier. There's another command you can run called rosdep install. So that will actually go and install the dependencies. There's a couple of flags that you pass in. The Y and the R just tells it to automatically agree to any packages. So when you do like a sudo apt install, you have to click yes. This just does that for you. The R just means if it fails, just keep going for the rest of them. And then the from paths, you just set that to the root of the ROS workspace. So what that means is it will go through all your nodes, go through all your packages.xmls, and it'll go through all your exec depends, and it'll go and grab all those different things from the registries. And you also have to pass in this as well. That wasn't obvious to start with, but you have to pass in this break system packages, similar to if you were doing like a pip install, you have to set that environment. And I just wrapped that into a make just because I forget all of these commands and the different things you've got to pass in. So if we did that, it should be pretty quick because I've already run it anyway, so there's nothing new to download. It does try and download some additional things for ROS, which I don't use. I don't think it's a problem. Hasn't been a problem so far. I just ignore those. So that's gone ahead and install the packages, and then I can do my make build. That just wraps up the colcon build. And then after that, I can do my make launch. So I've got different launches here for the individual packages, and then I've got one sort of main launch, which just launches everything it's got. So we can see we were looking at ears earlier. There should be an ears in here somewhere. Yeah, okay, I haven't set the key, that's fine. Ears has been started. So what has happened before is it just couldn't find some of the dependencies when I was using the Python virtual environment. But after setting this up with rosdep, that seems to work fine. So yeah, that's what you do. So set your registry, do a rosdep update, so it updates its cache, and then do your rosdep install, so it pulls down all your dependencies, and then you're good to go. So hopefully that was useful to you. Took me a couple of hours to figure out, but I figured it'd be worth sharing. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, and we'll see you in the next video.